In early 2004, Kenneth Meikle was on a walk with his dog in Milton, Scotland, before it suddenly jumped off a bridge. The Overtoun Bridge is notorious for its strange happenings, as the next 6 months saw 5 other dogs jump to their death. But this wasn't even the start, as even in the 1950s, it was called the Bridge of Death by locals, because of the mysterious number of dogs who would be perfectly normal until they approached the bridge, where they'd without hesitation jump off the bridge to a 50-foot drop with no water below. Since the construction of the bridge, an alleged 600 dogs have jumped, and another event sure hasn't helped its case for not being haunted. In October of 1994, Kevin Moy, who had been hiding his signs of paranoid schizophrenia, believed God was telling him his baby was a reincarnation of Satan, and as proof, a birthmark on the newborn's head that looked like a 6. So at only 2 weeks old, he threw his son off the bridge, which ended his life. Now whether this man was a modern-day God-fearing biblical hero, killing babies because God actually told him to, or was actually just an untreated schizophrenic, the death of his child, and then him jumping off and playing cut the rope with his wrist, isn't doing the bridge any favors. Owner of the Overtoun estate, a pastor from Texas, claims the area holds great spiritual properties, and that's why dogs jump. There's no proof, so I guess you can decide it's haunted reasonings. Top 10 cities to avoid if you hate roaches. If you don't know, I'm actually horrified by roaches, and any other bug, I'm fine. But roaches though, I don't. Number 10, Memphis, Tennessee. 15.2% of all residents in Memphis have a roach infestation. As you'll see, they really thrive in very warm and humid climates. Number 9, New York City, who you'd think would be number 1, but only a fraction percent higher at 15.6%. Number 8, Dallas, Texas. Those hot and dry Dallas summers send the roaches indoors. Number 7, Los Angeles, California. LA should actually be the best breeding ground for roaches. Humid from the ocean, hot from the heat, very densely populated by failed actors, but yeah, only 7. Number 6, Raleigh, North Carolina. With the majority of the year being over 70 degrees, Raleigh is also a southern hub city that roaches like to enjoy. Number 5, Phoenix, Arizona. Look, we're talking hot, they got the hot. You got the hot, you got the roaches. Number 4, Atlanta, Georgia. 25% of the roaches have residents. Number 3, Miami, Florida. It's dense, it's hot, it's wet, and it's Florida. We should actually be surprised they're not number 1. Number 2, Houston, Texas. Texas overall is the worst state for roaches. Just don't go. And number 1, New Orleans, Louisiana. They will chill on your couch, eat your food, and be tucked in bed by 9 o'clock sharp like they pay rent. The Blue John Canyon incident. On April 26, 2003, Aaron Ralston took a trip to Utah for a solo descent into the Blue John Canyon. While standing on a boulder he thought was sturdy, it suddenly fell from beneath him, dragging him down in the process. By the time they both reached the ground, his right arm had been pinned between the 800-pound boulder and the canyon wall. Only now, 100 feet into a canyon and 20 miles away from the closest road, did Aaron realize his mistake in not telling anyone where he was going. He focused all of his time to try and free himself, but to no success. After a couple of days, he drank the 1.5 cup of water he brought and slowly started drifting in and out of consciousness, until finally, he said his last goodbye 5 days after his fall into the canyon, carving his name into the canyon wall, along with his death date, ending his sad solo hiking story. Until he put his feet up on the boulder and pulled opposite until the bone snapped. He cut the connected skin and muscle with his cheap utility knife and used a pair of pliers to cut through his tendons. 127 hours pinned, and he was finally free. While one-handed, he hiked 6 miles until a family stumbled upon him and gave him some Oreos and contacted rescue. Aaron somehow survived this and is still alive to this day. Top 3 dumbest animals. Number 3, the jellyfish. They don't even have a brain, they have a neural net that allows for reflexes and changes in environment. But sadly, the having no brain thing leaves them without the ability to learn, so they're alive, but just barely. Number 2, the killdeer. Most birds use a soft, warm nest up in a tree for their delicate eggs. But the killdeer is too dumb, and for some reason favor a nest, and I use the term nest loosely, out in the open, usually in gravel. And it's weird they made it this far, because if you live anywhere near them, you hear this all day. Because they cannot help but to scream to every predator all day long exactly where they are. Whenever they see a predator in the vicinity of their nest, they play as if they have a broken wing, but they're still a little bit too dumb to, use their wings and fly away after a bit. And number 1, the koala. Not only do they have one of the lowest brain-to-body ratios for a mammal, but the reason they have survived so long on their notoriously horrible diet of toxic eucalyptus leaves is because their tiny little brains use so little energy, since there's nothing but leaves and koala booty on their minds, and they exhaust the rest of their pitiful brain power and energy to just exist. I mean, look at this brain. They are real-life smooth brains, and have no business living this long in rugged Australia. 5 interesting stuff. Number 5. The reason why police sketch artists draw so many creepy sketches is because these exaggerated features stick in people's brains longer, and these exaggerations have actually been proved to help with identifying. Number 4. The sound of a cat purring is really just its vocal cords opening and closing quickly. It's an automatic message from the brain that causes the laryngeal muscle to twitch from 25 to 150 hertz. Number 3. If your pee smells like syrup, you may have the very self-explanatory maple syrup urine disease. And no, you don't pee maple syrup, but if you want to prove me wrong, go ahead and taste it. It's the inability to process certain amino acids that make your pee smell sweet. And before the 60s, being born with this, the baby faced certain death within 2 weeks of being born. Number 2, the longest animal on Earth, a siphonophore that measures over 150 feet, and this is the average American drift fishnet at 5,280 feet. And before the 60s, we're usually 163,000 feet long. And number 1, this is what a flashbang looks like in the daylight. The flash is only for a second on video, but to the present, now completely saturated photoreceptors in the eye, that was an eternity. Shine a flashlight in your eye and notice a dark spot in your vision. Yeah, that's this, except everywhere, and now you're blind and deaf. So yeah, avoid these during your target run. 8-year-old Shauna Ray had a battle with brain cancer at only 6 months old. Luckily, the chemotherapy helped, but unluckily, it all but disabled her pituitary gland at 5 years old, and we all know its leading role in bodily growth, meaning 8-year-old Shauna isn't actually 8 at all, but a 3'10", 22-year-old woman, stuck in the body of an 8-year-old, due to the life-saving chemo's interference with the pituitary gland. She may be single, but given the men that would be looking for someone under her circumstances, her search for a partner, like most things in her life, have many extra hurdles, including things like being denied for a tattoo, and being denied for service at the bar when people don't believe her. She's said to become pretty good at sussing out the fetishizing creeps, but her parents still worry about her a lot, which is understandable. But she's even gotten her own show now, called I Am Shauna Ray, and has decided to be pretty open about the effects of this condition, because it's, quote, something that needs to be talked about, and people just need to understand that I'm a normal human being. On the morning of February 14, 2000, Aisha Degree, who was living in Shelby, North Carolina at the time, packed her school backpack with only these items and walked down the highway in heavy rain and wind, where she was spotted by multiple motorists. But when one approached her, she darted into the woods, and that was the last time she was ever seen. Patricia Banks said, "She doesn't even open the front door for me without getting her mother's permission, and I'm her aunt." Yet, this case is loaded with discrepancies. A motorist said they saw her walking at 2:30 a.m., which is the same time her uncle checked on her and found her sleeping in bed. And the Charlotte Observer claimed 4 motorists came forward, when most agree it was only 2. Some sources even dispute the clothing she had on, up to the time she went to bed and even left the house. But what's assured is Aisha has been missing since that day, and the most common agreed upon result being some kind of grooming from an adult, coaxing her out of her house during the early morning hours, which ended in an abduction. Though since she's been missing for 2 decades, with very little evidence, no one truly knows what happened to Aisha Degree. Time out. Commercial break. Only 7% of you guys are subscribed. Help me change that. 92.4 of you guys, subscribe right now while you're watching the video. That way you never miss one of these. 5 interesting stuff. Number 5. Big cats will often fake scared when their young sneak up on them to help boost their confidence in hunting. They'll also fake hurt when they're bit to make them feel real strong. Number 4. Why are capybaras so chill? Mainly because they're social animals. They actively want others around them. So like the people pleaser you are, they are, they'll deal with a bit more being thrown on them by others. And that's why others are often attracted to you. Them, like a magnet. Number 3. You can have temporary full body paralysis. You just have to encounter your trigger. Things that can trigger it are eating these items, trauma, hunger, stress, and really, to a lesser degree, pretty much anything. But the good thing is, it's usually only from a matter of minutes to just a few days. Number 2. Loofahs are actually just dried out fruit from the cucumber family, historically found in Asia. Also, these things used to scare me as a kid. Possibly from Rugrats? I don't know for sure, but I'm definitely traumatized. And number 1. Apes are a lot stronger than you're probably thinking. This guy can rip a coconut open with his bare hands, and pound for pound, chimps are anywhere from 2.5 to 5 times stronger than a human. Like, I don't want to alarm you, but even the little ones can just rip your entire scalp off. So, be nice to monkey. Top 3 things that shouldn't exist. Number 3. Amphibians. Most of them, and by them I mean frogs, toads, salamanders, and newts, suck things in through their skin, which is necessary because that's how they drink their water, but that means things that just have to swallow to hurt you just have to touch them and they die, including toxins in the air. But they're so sensitive, the 2-degree change by global warming makes their egg survival rate so low, the only time your grandkids will ever see these is in a book. They're walking, hopping disasters, and I don't know how they made it this far. Number 2. The placebo effect. So you're telling me tricking someone into thinking you're curing them actually cures them? Somebody's gotta be lying. Giving a pill with nothing in it to someone with depression can cure the depression if they believe it. Empty placebo pills prescribed can cure pain, sleep disorders, IBS, and even lessen the effects of menopause. All because their brain believes it's better, it just gets better. No, that shouldn't exist. And number 1, salt. It's really just a rock, but it's also a rock that tastes good, so we sprinkle it on literally everything we eat. All other rocks will kill you or are just disgusting tasting, yet this one is so good, half of Roman warriors' salary was paid in salt, and people were killed for this rock at least all the way back to 5,000 years ago. So yeah, life would be kinda weird if this single rock wasn't so tasty. Top 3 animals you didn't know existed. Number 3, and I'm not sure you even wanted to know this thing existed because of how uniquely unpleasant they are to the eye. The Klugo would be sure to give you nightmares if one day you woke up and it was being an ugly demon spawn anywhere within 100 miles of you. They're in a family which luckily only includes 2 existing animals, frickin' Mitch McConnell and Rudy Giuliani, and its next closest relatives are primates, so not a bad. They're the best gliders in the world, but sadly, they're also the best at being a freak of nature, but somehow, kinda cute like Momo. Number 2, what do you get when you cross a capybara and a kangaroo? The Patagonia Mara, which I guess takes from his dad since he's a rodent. Most people say they're rabbit-like, and I don't know what the biologists are smoking, but that's a recently single capybara who's been working out and dyeing their hair. And I don't know about you, but in my state it's legal to own one, and about 20 times cheaper than a Puppyland puppy. So I'm low-key, oh my god, there's a disabled one. And number 1, he's so ugly, his name is actually the big-headed mole rat. Like, that's just rude. But yeah, he's all those. The way his eyes sit on top of his head is just not right. It took me like 3 minutes to even notice he had eyes up there. I'm sorry, but this dude is just really ugly. Island. He's seen feral cats contribute to a large part of at least 28 animals' extinction in Australia. Meanwhile, they continue to destroy other ecosystems. For example, in the US, people letting their domesticated cats outside kills about 10% of the adult bird population every year. Not to mention, they kill really anything they can get their little paws on. That's why Australians hunt, trap, and poison bait them. But the cat man goes much further than everyone else, making it a life journey to trap, kill, and sort of poorly taxidermy them, making sure to keep a tally along the way. And as of now has over 1,500 kills. Instead of their fur being tossed out with the rest, the ones he kills, he tries to repurpose and does so into pretty much everything. It seems truly evil to be proud of such a feat, yet it's his most beloved accomplishment. And without people like him, irresponsible pet owners would probably bring down thousands of more ecosystems in a pretty short amount of time. So, the moral of the story? Don't let your still obviously wild and habitat destroying animal roam free, so this man can get a new hobby. 5 facts you never knew. Orchid, a beautiful name for a beautiful flower, yet is derived from the Greek word orchis, another beautiful word. Orchis just so happens to mean testicles, which apparently the Greeks thought they looked like. China and India are the most populated countries in the world, so populated in fact, that if you took away 1 billion people from each of their countries, they'd still be number 1 and number 2. Black holes aren't actually black, or holes. Take a single guess at what shape they are. If you didn't say sphere, like literally everything else in the universe, then I don't know, get some help. And they have no color. So instead of black hole, it should be named sphere no color. This is a pebble toad. They get that name because when they see a predator, they tuck their limbs in and roll away like a rock. People say it doesn't hurt them, but what they mean is it doesn't affect them long term, because smacking your head 30 times or rolling down a cliff is gonna hurt, but definitely hurts a lot less than death. And lastly, when you wake up in the morning, the main reason you look so terribly disgusting is actually because you've just woken up. Wow, who would've known?
Oh my god! Wow!
Top 5 oldest artifacts ever found. Number 5. The oldest phallus-shaped item, named the Stiltstone phallus from 30,000 years ago, while being the oldest known item used for human, play, it was quite the multitasker, because it could also light fires. They don't make them like they used to. Number 4. The oldest sweatshop. Kidding, but in the Bombul's cave, there were many items showing humans' creations of our first complex compound. 100,000-year-old paint, or possibly adhesive, on stands, mixed in abalone shell bowls. Number 3. The oldest axe. An Acheulean axe from Kenya is dated to about 1.76 million years ago, and they were top-of-the-line technology until about 200,000 years ago, so they were pretty trusty. Number 2. We're at the part where banging rocks together is all the high-end technology. The 2.6 million year old Aldebaran stones are more than just banging rocks together though, because these monkeys knew science, setting up striking platforms, shaving down edges for better shapes when striking, and multi-strike technology. And number 1, the oldest stones ever found. The Lemekwi stones are a whopping 3.3 million years old. There weren't even any homos around. This tech involves smacking a rock at least 3 times to make a convenient shape for busting nuts and beating meat. Sounds like you would have been a pro with these tools. Top 3 rare photos from history. Number 3. Dropping bombs used to actually mean a person was dropping them. This is over 100 years old technology. Get up in a plane and drop the bombs by hand. But also, other objects like nails would rain down at high speeds to penetrate helmets of the enemies. Number 2. And just a year later, giving a good look as the past repeating itself. A boy just standing in front of a downtown Seattle movie theater, which was closed from the public gathering proclamation because of the Spanish flu. It's interesting that humans are pretty much just the same throughout recent history. Non-essentials not working, sickness flare-ups, masks, and death will continue to come and go as it pleases, no matter the best doctor's efforts or crazy conspiracy theorist reasonings. And number 1, photos have strictly been prohibited inside the US Supreme Court while it's in session. That's why it makes only 2 pictures, the only ones to exist. In 1932, German photographer Erich Salomon faked a broken arm to sneak in the camera and take this photo. And the only other one is just 5 years later. A young woman cut a hole in her purse, they hid a camera taking this picture. It was published in Time magazine and spread far and wide. Yet, the young woman was never actually identified, and at this point, most likely never will be. 5 maps of the USA. This is the percentage of population of each state that believes without a doubt that God exists. Mississippi and Alabama are actually the highest at 80%, and these 4 states are the lowest at 40%. This map shows the percentage of each state who thinks the freedom of abortion should be legal. Obviously, these numbers fluctuate heavily depending on which politician the public is currently idolizing. And as a stark contrast, here is a map where prostitution is legal versus illegal. Though it looks like there's just one, it's more complicated than that. Because of so many extra laws, it's just sorta illegal in the state. This is a map showing the timeline of when interracial marriage was made legal in each state. The red states were obviously forced by the US government in 1967, yet states like South Carolina and Alabama had bans until pretty recent. And lastly, this map suggests the intelligence by state. Intelligence here is measured by IQ, ACT scores, SAT scores, and college graduates. While this isn't a 100% sure list, no stat measuring intelligence of an entire state would be 100%, because that's pretty much impossible. But most likely, the dumbest and the smartest people are found in California, simply due to numbers. 5 more maps of the USA. The top map is showing household firearm ownership in the US, and the bottom, gun deaths per 100,000 people in each state. Pretty surprising when you consider there are over 393 million guns in the US and only 329 million people in the US, you know, including babies and all. This is a map of counties that ban alcohol. While it's legal to consume in most cases, the selling of alcohol sees bans here, whether that be banned altogether or like on a Sunday or after dark or something. These are the states with the highest property tax. The darker red, the higher the tax you get to pay to own a home, which are estimates. As you can see from a county map, it also differs. This is the state of legality of marijuana in each state. While we've seen this freedom become more and more widespread, you're still going to prison. In some others, they leave you alone until a certain amount, and then you're going to prison. And lastly, the legality of gay marriage in the US. The orange states still didn't allow this freedom until 2015 when they were forced. Kinda like the interracial marriage from the last video, but yeah. Jerry Santoro, as she lay lifeless, victim of a botched illegal abortion. Meanwhile, Clyde Dixon, the man who accidentally get her pregnant, frantically rushes around the room, gathering the textbook and medical equipment he brought after feeling just as responsible as her for the untimely pregnancy. In Jerry's life before this moment, though as painfully ordinary as she was, had gathered the courage to leave her husband, Sam. Though battered and bruised from years of abuse, Sam Santoro, leaning on the fact he grew up an abused and unloved orphan, took any anger he had out on her. But after fearing the safety for her 2 children, if he had taken the abuse too far, she grabbed her 2 children and moved over 2,000 miles away. After a while, her new man Clyde, who she met working at an institution for the disabled, had been what she had hoped her first husband would be. But when Sam announced he'd be coming to visit his children, Jerry, and her friends at the office, taking the abuse into account, came to the conclusion he would most likely kill her if he found out she was pregnant by another man. And when she told Clyde, that's when he gathered the supplies, and you know how it ended. In 1995, Judy, Jerry's oldest daughter, while opposed to abortion at the time, did get an abortion as a teenager. Certainly hers happening after Roe v. Wade passing made it a bit easier, yet the denial of her mother's choice, just a decade before, left 2 kids without a mom, Clyde in prison for a conspiracy to commit abortion, and an ordinary but loving mom gone before her time. This happened in June of 1964. In now June of 2022, the 50th anniversary of this event, we now see an end to this fundamental right of choice. This is exactly what absolute power looks like. And with power like this, you'll either stand up to keep your fundamental rights now, or wait, and by that time, they'll be taking a fundamental right that you seem to care about.